So, first of all, I would like to pay a beautiful thanks to all our participants. Before I start, I just want to confirm that my voice is clear with you all. एक बार मैं जानना चाह रहा हूं कि मेरी आवाज आप सभी को ठीक से आ रही है। गुड इवनिंग है जी, सभी को गुड इवनिंग है, नमस्ते है, सत श्री अकाल है, जो भी अभिवादन का शब्द आप स्वीकार करते हैं। आइए आज के इस पावरफुल वेबिनार में हम लोग आज की बातचीत को शुरू कर। मैं अपनी बात करूं तो एक बार मैं चाहता हूं मेरी आवाज ठीक से आ रही है क्या? ये भावना कोमल नामक की नेकी हमारे साथ एक बताएंगे प्लीज। वॉइस इज की बात शुरू कर। अक्षय जी आपका वेलकम है, जी बोल रहे हैं। ओ माय राज एंड प्रैक्टिस एज ए साइकोलॉजिस्ट ना। मैं इस साथ में पर्सनल केयर फाउंडेशन में काम करते हैं, जिसका काम होता है ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोगों को मेंटल हेल्थ, जैसे कि इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस, इस तरीके के टॉपिक्स उनको करना में और आगे करना। आज में हम शुरुआत मैं चाहूंगा कि इसमें आते हैं। लास्ट में डिस्कशन में एक सर्टिफिकेट का लिंक आपकी कोशिश हुआ, आप अप्लाई कर सकते हैं। थिंग इज कि यदि दूसरा देखना चाहते तो इसी चैनल पे वेबिनार पुराने भी साथ में बता दूं कि हम चाहते हैं। तो इस हम लोग की समय से पहले इनवाइट ऐड कर में जुड़ मैं से रिक्वेस्ट करूं आप सब अपनी ब्रेक आज क्या अभी आज के अच्छा कि हम This is breaking, still breaking. ओके ओके। आइए आज के रिसोर्स पर्सन को हम लोग आप सभी के बीच में इंट्रोड्यूस करना चाहेंगे। आप वसंत अग्रवाल जी हैं। आई होप अग्रवाल साहब आपको मेरी आवाज ठीक से आ रही है क्या?
हाँ आ रही, पर आपकी आवाज कट आउट हो रही है।
ओके, ओके,
मतलब
कोई बात नहीं। मैं अभी आपको हैंडओवर ही कर रहा हूँ। मैं आपको इंट्रोड्यूस
हाँ,
करके, आई थिंक
हाँ,
कुछ आज इश्यू है हमारे नेट के साथ में। मैं काफ़ी टाइम से देख रहा हूँ इसको। कुछ ग्लिचेस हैं, हम लोग अल्टरनेट देख रहे हैं। खैर, आइए हम लोग सर का वेलकम करें। सर वसंत अग्रवाल जी हैं। सबसे पहले अपनी बात को शुरू करूं, मैं आपको हमारे आज के रिसोर्स पर्सन वसंत अग्रवाल जी, सबसे पहले मैं पर्सनालिटी केयर फाउंडेशन की पूरी टीम की तरफ से आपका बहुत बहुत वेलकम करना चाहूंगा। आपने अपना
थैंक यू।
बेशकीमती समय हमारे बीच में दिया। आप पुणे बेस्ड हैं और आपने अपनी जो पढ़ाई है, जो आपका आईएससी डिप्लोमा है, वो कैम्ब्रिज यूनिवर्सिटी इंग्लैंड से हुआ है। साथ में एमएस सिस्टम इंजीनियरिंग में आपने किया है। साथ के साथ आप डायरेक्टर रहे हैं इंडियन स्कूल काउंसलर एसोसिएशन की। ये काफी बड़ी बात है। आज के हमारे रिसोर्स पर्सन जो अभी तक के ज्यादा अनुभव प्राप्त लोगों में शामिल हुए हैं। सीनियर एडवाइजर रहे हैं इंटरनेशनल ट्रेनिंग फेडरेशन के, और साथ में एज ए एडमिन इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस ग्रुप, यानी इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस अलायंस में लिंक्डइन पे हम सब लोग जानते हैं, डिस्कवर माय माइंड के नाम से बेहतरीन काम कर रहे हैं। जबरदस्त चीजें हमें देखने को मिलती हैं। आज के दिन मैं बताना चाहूंगा, सर के साथ कोई हजार नहीं बल्कि 15,000 से ज्यादा लिंक्डइन पे उनके साथ में साइकोलॉजी, साइकोथेरेपिस्ट, एजुकेशनिस्ट इस लाइन में जुड़े हैं। इवन मैं भी खुद उनमें से एक हूँ कि सर से संपर्क किया और मैंने देखा सर वास्तव में बहुत बेहतरीन काम कर रहे हैं। एंड द एक्सीडेंटल एडिक्ट एंड द पावर ऑफ पॉजिटिव थिंकिंग कि सर ऑथर भी रहे हैं, साथ के साथ में स्पीकर रहे हैं बहुत सारी इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस के अक्रॉस इंडिया एज वेल एज। साथ के साथ में उनका DMIT, बिहेवियर मैनेजमेंट, इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस, प्रोफाइलिंग एंड असेसमेंट, साइकोमेट्रिक टेस्टिंग, इन सब में उनका एरिया ऑफ एक्सपर्टीज रहा है। और साथ के साथ में सीनियर मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंट, हेल्थ केयर, यार्निस्ट, यंग एंड ओके ओके यूएसए में, LA में सर का एक एक तरीके का ये अनुभव रहा है। डिस्कवर माय माइंड के जैसा मैंने बताया कि सर डायरेक्टर हैं। और सबसे बढ़िया बात उनकी मुझे ये लगती है कि वो इस नॉलेज को दूसरे लोगों तक शेयर करना चाहते हैं, जहाँ पे मोटी फीस देने के बाद भी एक इंसान उस लेवल पे चीजें नहीं सीख पाता। मैं सर का बहुत 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 आपका धन्यवाद करना चाहूंगा सर। नाउ इट्स ओवर टू यू सर।
Okay, thank you, Raj. It's a pleasure being here. Hello to all your to the audience, and I am so delighted to be a part of your program. तो सब्जेक्ट मैटर है इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस। बेसिकली बहुत लोग इस बात को ठीक से समझते नहीं हैं। They don't know the value proposition. What is emotional intelligence? Somebody says, how can you be intelligent if you're emotional? Well, together अगर उसको साथ करें आप, तो आप समझेंगे कि हम लोग के चार पिलर्स हैं लाइफ में: our finances, our family, our careers and our health. तो ये चार पिलर्स जो हैं ये इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस से अफेक्ट होते हैं डायरेक्टली। नाउ व्हाट आर द कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस? बेसिकली दे आर सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन, हु एम आई, हम कौन हैं। और तो ये जो है आप जो दिखा रहे हैं ये सब इमोशंस हैं। तो बेसिक इमोशंस जो हैं एंगर, जॉय, फियर, सैडनेस, ट्रस्ट। तो बेसिकली हम लोग का माइंड जो है वो तीन पार्ट्स में डिवाइडेड होता है। वी हैव अ सर्वाइवल माइंड, वी हैव ए इमोशनल माइंड एंड वी हैव ए लॉजिकल माइंड। सर्वाइवल माइंड जो है बचपन से ही व्हेन वी आर बोर्न वी वांट टू सर्वाइव। जो इमोशनल माइंड है उसके बारे में we'll talk more. And finally, you have your logical mind, which is governed by your five senses. So the problem we have is lack of education awareness. What can emotional intelligence do for me? Basically, what it can do is impact your physical health, your family, your career, and even your finances. So, people don't know that your mental health affects your physical health, your physical health affects your emotional health. So, that is the core of the whole thing. If we can manage our emotions, then our relationships, our family, our career, everything gets impacted and can improve. Now, emotions can be positive or negative, and it's very important to understand that emotions are very powerful. You know, our whole life circulates, depends on how we manage, understand, control our emotions. And so it is very important to know that. You know, I was at a gathering the other day and somebody asked me, they said, Mr. Agarwal, what do you do? I said, I'm involved in emotional intelligence. So they looked at me and they said, oh, ये क्या नई बीमारी है? Is this some new illness? And this was a very educated person. So now the problem we have is people don't understand the value proposition. And that has been my sole goal in life is making people aware of the value of managing your emotions. Now, most of our emotions lie in our subconscious. It is only when something happens, people, places, events, something happens that triggers your emotion. Then that emotion comes out from your subconscious and comes to your conscious. Then you say or do something based on that, and after the event is over, your emotion goes back to your subconscious. Now, let's get back to basics. What are emotions? A thought, a feeling becomes a thought. That thought then becomes an emotion. That emotion then makes you say or do something to someone. That person then comes back with a reaction. Then you go back to respond to that reaction. So, this is what happens. A feeling becomes a thought, becomes an emotion that causes you to say or do something. And that is the straight line function. So, basically, if we can manage our emotions and use them productively, wisely, then that will help our life tremendously. Now, main thing we should do is to take away negative emotions. 90% of our emotions are negative, only 10% are positive. So, we have to be careful of negative emotions and we must then use them uh, in a positive sense. Now, as far as emotional intelligence is concerned, as I mentioned, it comprises of your self awareness, your self management, empathy and compassion, and relationship management. Those are the four elements of emotional intelligence. And I do a lot of work in this area. I'm an author. I've written two books on emotional intelligence. One of my latest book is Parenting with Emotional Intelligence. Now, it's very important that when a child becomes unmanageable, the child is not performing, the child is misbehaving, the child is locked up in their room using their phone all the time. So, parenting becomes a problem in today's life. By that, because they are working, the parents are working, and they don't have the time. So, basically, what they do is take the child to a psychiatrist or psychologist, pay them a lot of money, and what do you get? You get prescription medication as a result. I'm not in favor of that, only when it's essential. So, parenting and with emotional intelligence is now becoming very important. Also, after COVID, excuse me, uh, people are becoming very concerned about their emotional health. And today, they also don't know where to go, what to do. So, my group called Emotional Intelligence Alliance on LinkedIn, we do posts, articles, videos every day. And I'm glad to say that we receive at least 500 to 1,000 reviews every day. So there's a lot of good material that people can view and learn from. Excuse me. Uh, Also, I urge people to join the group. Also, Discover My Mind, which is my company. Uh, Go look at the website discovermymind.com. It too has a lot of information, and it stresses the importance of assessment. I do workshops and conferences and webinars. Excuse me. Now, assessment is very important. We get a physical checkup every year, but we don't do a mental health checkup. So, getting an assessment is so important. Uh, People don't know that the each person has multiple intelligences, aptitude, memory, logic. You are strong in some and you're weak in some others. So a EQ assessment, which we also do, is very important and will help you uh, understand your strengths and weaknesses, and then you can get the proper counseling and advice. For example, uh, I have almost 8,000 mental health experts on my LinkedIn network, and excuse me, and they all have 8-year PhDs, and they're coming to me saying, Mr. Agarwal, we were never taught emotional intelligence in our course. And unless we do an EQ assessment of our patient, then we don't know what is going on in their mind, what is the problem. And so I recommend to them that they have a EQ assessment done. Now let's talk about EQ and IQ. Uh, Most people think that IQ is the most important, and they don't know that their IQ remains constant all through their life. They say, "Oh, I got a PhD, so I must be smarter than when I was born." The answer is no. Your IQ remains constant. It is your EQ, your emotional quotient, that develops from childhood all through when you're 60, 70 years old. So that is the key that I feel people must realize. And beyond that, uh, I think that it is important that people, there are a lot of videos and information available on the internet on the subject matter. I urge you, every one of you, to go to the internet, go to ChatGPT, and to see the speakers and TEDx and many other forums. And there are excellent speakers. Now, what I've done is I have taken some of that quality material and put it on my videos on my group page, Emotional Intelligence Alliance. There are articles as to how AI affects every aspect of our life. There are videos, there's posts every day. So what I'm trying to say is the process has to start with learning and understanding what is emotional intelligence, how can it help you. The main thing that I want to convey to everyone is emotional intelligence is nothing more than learning how to say thank you, how to say sorry, how to say how can I help you. That's what emotional intelligence is, nothing more. So I urge everyone to follow our posts, uh, see our website discovermymind.com, and then join us so that we can share what we know with you and help you. That is the main thing. I don't know. I think I've said all that I had to say. Are there any questions? Is there anybody with any questions? Can I answer anything there? Raj, do you have any questions?
Yes, sir. Actually, first of all, apology, कुछ इंटरनेट का इशू आ रहा है आज बहुत ही ज़्यादा। तो कुछ लोग यदि अब डायरेक्ट सवाल पूछना चाहते हैं, तो वो पूछ सकते हैं। यहाँ पे एक स्लाइड सर मैंने शेयर की है, इसमें है सेल्फ, अदर्स, व्हाट आई नो, व्हाट आई डू। मैं इसके बारे में थोड़ा-सा जानना चाह रहा हूँ। आपको स्क्रीन सामने दिख रहा है क्या?
हाँ, यस आई कैन सी इट। मुझे दिख रहा है।
जी सर। स्लाइड
नहीं, जैसे मैंने कहा कि सेल्फ असेसमेंट, हु एम आई, व्हाट एम आई, व्हाट एम आई डूइंग हियर, व्हाट आर माय गोल्स इन लाइफ, है ना? वो बहुत ज़रूरी है कि टू अंडरस्टैंड हु यू आर। द सेकंड इज ऑब्वियसली सेल्फ मैनेजमेंट। दैट मीन्स आपके इमोशंस जो हैं, क्या आप उसको आइडेंटिफाई करिए, उसको मैनेज करिए, उसको कंट्रोल करिए, और उसको प्रोडक्टिवली इस्तेमाल करिए. इमोशंस आर वेरी पावरफुल टू. लोग लड़ाई झगड़ा वॉर्स मैरिज डिवोर्स सब इमोशंस के बेसिस पे करते हैं. तो इमोशंस को प्रॉपरली आइडेंटिफाई करके इस्तेमाल करना, टू यूज इट productively, should be the goal in life. The third is empathy and compassion. We don't show empathy and compassion in our day to day life. Empathy is not the same as sympathy. Empathy is when you reach out to help somebody. And then finally, relationship management. Life is nothing without relationships with your family, with your friends, with the people you work with, and the world around you. It's all based on relationships. Use your emotions to strengthen, build, and improve your relationships with your environment, with everything around you. And that's what that slide is all about. I had a few other slides or दिखाइए. Are you there, Raj? Hello. Again, while Raj is coming back, uh, please understand that our physical health affects our mental health. Our mental health affects our physical health. This is very important. And our mental health is a function of our emotions. Now, I have written in the very beginning a book on addiction. What is addiction? Anything you do in excess is an addiction. It doesn't have to do with drugs and alcohol. It has to do with eating, sleeping, TV, gaming. So anything in excess is an addiction. Now, either what happens is addiction is a precursor or the aftermath of depression and anxiety. Either either you are depressed and anxious and stressed out, you become an addict of something, small, large, minimal, excessive, compulsive. Or if you become an addict, then you resolve to, you know, eating, drinking, whatever that suits you, that satisfies you. So it's very important. And the core of it all is depression. Now, why do you have depression? It has to do with your emotions. If you're not emotionally healthy, you will be depressed. Once you're depressed, you will resort to whatever means to get away from that. So, my feeling is that we must recognize that we are all addicts of some form, some extent, some reason, some habit. We are all of us, we all have that. And so, in order to stay away from that and not let it become a problem, we must deal with our mental health. If we're happy, you see, we were born to be happy. If we're not happy, then something is wrong. I'll give an example. Somebody, I was at a conference and I was speaking, and I asked the audience, I said, can you define common sense for me? And they all looked at each other and they said, oh, it's something we have, but we don't use. No, no, no. Common sense is the combination of our experience, our knowledge, our five senses, our being. That is what makes us know what to say, what to do, what not to touch. Let's say it's a burning uh, piece of wood. You know not to touch it because you know gonna. That's your common sense. And so, and yes, we rarely use it, but we should because that will determine the outcome that we want. Going back on emotional learning, uh, Andre Agassi, one of the world's best tennis players, when he was born, his parents put a tennis ball. They strung it across his crib, and they would touch that ball and make it move. And he began to understand eye movement. His eyes would track the ball back and forth. This was when he was an infant. And that is emotional learning because he then became one of the biggest tennis stars in the world. Now, who would think that that by tying a tennis ball across the crib of a child that has just been born would turn him into one of the world's most famous tennis players? Nobody. But that's what we don't understand is that emotional learning starts from when we are born. When we are born. Today in America, emotional learning, emotional intelligence is being taught to 5-year-old children. 5-year-old, not 15, not 20, but they understand from that young age what is this all about and how their futures are designed around this learning. It's very important. Most counselors, student counselors in India do not have had any formal training in emotional intelligence. If a child is not performing, not behaving, being troublesome in school, they don't know. And the schools don't care. The schools just say, oh, well, and I said, I'm willing to have webinars and training sessions. Well, who's going to pay for it? Well, I can't do it for free. So that is the problem. And now I have a question here. Is emotional intelligence works to grow and manage relationships better? And it can change a person's behavior. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Relationships. If there's things like personality, your emotional well-being, mental health, your emotional intelligence determines your personality, and that is part of relationships at work, at home. It's your personality, and you know everything in life, as far as I'm concerned, revolves around your emotions. That's all. It's very simple. That's all. And if you do that, you'll be successful in life, you'll be healthy, happy, you'll have a great family life, you'll have a great career. Again, you know, I urge you, the question is, do people from abroad have more EQ levels? Because I feel they are more open to appreciate others than, and they are more open to talk about mental issues. No, 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 no. Uh, yes, they are more open. See, one of the main things, somebody said to me, I don't want to talk to that person. They're too emotional. Wait a minute. What do you mean? I mean, why suppress your emotions? Express them. Let them out. Let the other person know how you feel about something they did or said or didn't do or didn't say. That's what it's all about. Yes, we in India, because the question is based on the US, yes, people are more open to discussing openly their thoughts, their feelings about whatever is going on. In India, I'm sorry to say, most people don't share what they're feeling or they're going through in their life. Uh, and that's a shame, because if they did that, get it off their chest, then they'd be happier, they'd be relieved, and they would get help from the other person, because the other person doesn't know what you're going through. Now, the next question is, knowledge of AI change a toxic behavior of a person? Absolutely, no question. If we all have some degree of toxicity in our personality, and if you're emotionally aware, then you won't say or do the things that you normally would, and then suffer a reaction. So, toxic behavior is unfortunately a part of human behavior, human nature. Question is, do people from how well abroad have higher EQ levels because they're more open to appreciate? Yes, I think we just discussed that. Um, is how is EQ related to career? I've written a post on Emotional Intelligence Alliance, the impact of EQ EI on career planning. Yes, um, to the extent that if you're emotionally mature, and as far as career planning is concerned, you see, you need to know what are your multiple intelligences. You need to know what are your strengths and weaknesses. I mean, my father wanted me to be a chemical engineer. I didn't. I went to UCLA. I got my master's in information systems, computer systems at that time, 50 years ago. And I never told my father that because he would not be willing to accept it. At that time, chemical engineering was the best field in India. He wanted me to be a chemical engineer, and I did not want that. I didn't like it. So, uh, your career planning, you know, a child wants to be a pilot, a girl wants to be a singer or an actress or a dancer, but the parents don't want that. They want everybody to be a lawyer or a doctor or a I mean, so in order to do proper career planning, in my estimation, you must do an EQ assessment first. Know your multiple intent, and that assessment will tell you and guide you as to potentially good career choices. You don't have to take it, but then at least you have some guidance. Okay, the next question is, what is the difference between EQ and IQ? Well, like I said before, IQ is your intelligence quotient. It is a numerical assessment that, like I said, starts when you're born. You have only so much smarts when you're born. Your IQ remains the same all your life, maybe 1 or 2% more. And like I said, people say, oh, I've got so many PhDs and degrees, so I must be smarter than when I was born. That is not the case. It is your EQ from the day you were born that develops and grows and matures and helps you in your life. I don't know how other way to what other way to explain that. And the emphasis in our country is all on IQ because IQ determines supposedly determines your marks, your grades, your admission tests. How smart is this child? And that is not the way to go about it. I I really believe that. And now there is AI. Well, AI cannot exist without AI. I'm sorry. The human element has to be there. Now, maybe 10 years later, AI can even read the human mind or emotions. And, um, okay, the next question is, how does EQ help in psychological counseling? Oh, very important. You see, most psychologists, they they have PhDs of years and years, but in their curriculum, they were very few. It's just starting. Were taught about emotional intelligence, and very few mental health professionals employ EQ. I'm sorry, EQ assessment, EI assessment before they even talk to a patient. अरे आपको हमारी इमोशनल जन्म पत्री अगर नहीं है, then how can you counsel me? How can you tell me? And it's like going to a doctor and he's asking, what are your symptoms? And you say, well, I'm not going to tell you that. So, what is the doctor going to do? He'll give you some prescription medication that doesn't suit you. So, psychological counseling, and is all a result, excuse me, the need for psychological counseling is because of mental health problems. And there can be self governance. You can learn about how to improve your emotional intelligence and what it can do for you. You don't have to go to a psychologist or psychiatrist and pay them thousands of rupees every hour. Only when it is clinically essential, then for all reasons, please do go see a psychologist or psychiatrist. But other than that, there can be self learning. It's like anything else. How do you learn to drive? How do you learn to cook? How do you learn to read? I mean, how do you learn math? So the question is, are there any disadvantages of, excuse me, having high No, no. Why would having high emotional intelligence be a disadvantage? I mean, that is the question. It's not like it's going to become some destructive force or negative force. No, the more you are intelligent emotionally, and the more you apply that intelligence in your daily life, in your, excuse me, I've got a sore throat, um, in your daily life, the more successful you're going to be. I mean, there's no doubt that having a high AI will help you in everything, in your family, in your relationships, in your career, and more so in your physical health. Okay, the question is, please explain how pride is a positive emotion. Well, there is nothing negative about being proud of what you have accomplished in life, whether in school or at your work or anything else, sports or whatever. So, pride is something that comes with accomplishment. If you accomplish something, you should be proud of it. And your family and your friends should all be proud of it. So, so it has to be a positive emotion as far as I'm concerned. Why not? Why not be proud of what you accomplished, right? What are the ways to improve EQ? Very good question. I was waiting for that. Well, what can I say? It's not a simple answer. There are many, many steps you have to take to improve your EQ. And I've written that in my books, The Power of Emotional Intelligence and Parenting with Emotional Intelligence, and in my posts on the Emotional Intelligence Alliance on LinkedIn. So check my profile, send me a message, and be happy to take that chapter out of my book and send it to you. That's a very good question. Thank you. The question is, should EQ be taught in schools or should be made a separate subject? Yes, EQ must be taught in schools. The school counselors must be trained and certified on emotional intelligence. You know, um, the Central Board of Education, CBE, they've issued a guideline to every school in India that every school counselor must be trained and certified in emotional intelligence. The problem is administration, the owners, they don't care. They really don't. I'm sorry. They're interested in collecting fees, and that's it. So, whether the child does well or not, which is the result of the emotional health of the child, that is secondary. I'm sorry to all educators and principals. Even principals now don't have the power they used to. And I talk to them and they say, Mr. Agarwal, we see what you're saying, we understand it, We understand the need for what you're doing. But we have to get permission and approval and funding from the owners of the school. Otherwise, we can't do anything. As far as making it a separate subject, that's not a bad idea at all. Why not? But you must have somebody trained to teach that subject. It's like anything else, physics or math. You can't just have somebody talk about a subject which is uh, esoteric in a sense. By that I mean that you have to explain the value proposition in order for a child to embrace it and to say, oh, okay, now I know what's about. Now I'm going to practice it or, learn from it or improve my life. So, this is a concept that is lacking in education awareness in our country. I've lived in America many years, and that is why I came back to give back to my country. And I saw this as a way of doing that. And I want so much for people, and they're beginning to understand, they're beginning to learn, they're beginning to see and the value because the basic tenet in life is what's in it for me, इसमें हमारा क्या है. So unless we get that message across, okay, the question is how important do you think digital intelligence is in increasing. I don't know what you mean by digital intelligence. uh, Intelligence is intelligence, and whether it's digitally or manually or otherwise disseminated. If you mean AI, then it's going to change the world we're living in because an AI is a very powerful tool, and unless we control it, manage it, whether by policy or whatever, it can be misused, I think. Okay, the question is how to control anger. Is anger a bad emotion? How to maintain tolerance after marriage? Uh, Anger is not a good emotion. The four basic emotions are trust, fear, anger, joy. So now you cannot suppress anger. If you're upset about something, let it out. Get it off your chest. Don't keep it within you because it'll grow and grow and grow. They asked about marriage, tolerance after marriage. Uh, Tolerance is something else. Anger is something else. And my feeling is that unless you manage your anger, it's going to be counterproductive. It's not going to help you in your life. That's why they have courses in anger management. Hey, and it all has to do with emotions, believe it or not. Emotionally, when you're upset, you're angry, something didn't work out, something somebody didn't say or do or did or whatever. It's a matter of management. There is a book titled Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman is a US author. He's a dear friend, and he's one of the three or four experts in the field. Now, his books cost, I don't know, $19.95, $24.95. Very few people in India can afford 2-3,000 rupees for a book on emotional intelligence. My books cost 295 rupees, which is $2-3. And I strongly urge you because his books are US oriented. My books are designed around India. And so write me a note on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to send you a copy. But I'm very proud. I've sold thousands of my books for the past many years. And like I said, I have a lot of regard for Daniel Goleman. And there are two or three other, but their books are phenomenally expensive. So I don't know. It's up to you. Well, thank you all for participating, and I hope I was able to shed some insight. And the question is, which state or country has the highest EQ? No, I don't think anybody has that answer. And it's not just America or Europe or Japan or India. I don't think anybody measures EQ by state or country. I don't think so. So, hey, I hope, I wish it is India, but it's going to take some time. It's going to take time. You're most welcome to all you folks who have posed questions. Everyone, I want to thank you. And there is so much more. You must join the group Emotional Intelligence Alliance on LinkedIn. There is so much good content. I'm so proud of it. We're talking about pride. I'm so proud of the group. I have 7,500 members worldwide, and they're all professionals solely on LinkedIn, on emotional intelligence. Can you believe that? Worldwide. And there is no looky loo there. Everyone checks out my profile, checks out my posts, and then they join. And I'm very selective as to who joins the group. There's no panwala there, I assure you. You're most welcome, Tabassum. Satish, my pleasure. My pleasure. Take care of yourself.
So I would also like to pay great and beautiful thanks to our resource person. उन्होंने आज बहुत ही बेहतरीन तरीके से टू द पॉइंट अपने EQ और AI से जुड़ी बातों पे डायरेक्ट उन्होंने आंसर किया है। आई होप आपको ये क्लियर रहा होगा। मैं सर का भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद व्यक्त करता हूँ। उनकी रेगुलर जो एनर्जी है, 2-3 बार उन्हें इशारा मिला कि उन्हें थोड़ा ब्रेक लेना चाहिए, बट फिर भी वो बहुत बेहतरीन तरीके से आंसर करते जा रहे थे। आई होप आपको इस तरीके की चीज़ भी थोड़ी-सी सही लगी होगी, जो बिल्कुल लाइव इंटरेक्शन हम ऑडियंस से करते हैं। इसी वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन में हमने सर्टिफिकेट का लिंक भी सभी को डाला है। यदि अग्रवाल साहब कुछ लास्ट टाइम में कुछ मैसेज देना चाहें हमारी ऑडियंस को, सर आपका स्वागत है।
Nay, I wish everybody health and happiness. I want to thank you, Raj, for organizing this. It's been a pleasure, and I'd be happy to expand and do it again. There's so much to share. मैं क्या बोलूं?
जी। जी, मैं आपका बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद व्यक्त करता हूँ। ऑडियंस को मैं कहूँगा कि लिंक्डइन पे जाके एक बार ज़रूर वसंत अग्रवाल जी सर्च करें। आई होप आपको बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन के आंसर एज़ वेल एज़ कुछ पीडीएफ फॉर्मेट और बहुत सारे आर्टिकल्स आपको टाइम टू टाइम अपडेट मिलेंगे। और हम
बिल्कुल।
खुद भी सर से संपर्क में हम डायरेक्ट नहीं थे, लेकिन इसी थ्रू हम पहुंचे और सर ने हमारे साथ बातचीत की और मुझे काफ़ी अच्छा लगा कि इस लेवल पे चीज़ें की जा सकती हैं। ऑडियंस को मैं कहूँगा कि यदि उन्हें ये सेशन बढ़िया लगा है तो 2 प्यारे शब्द वो ज़रूर लिख के जाएँ। ग्रैटिट्यूड से भी आपका इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस का संबंध है। आपको अच्छा लगे तो आप अपना फीडबैक लिख सकते हैं और आने वाले विदिन 7 वर्किंग डेज़ में आपको हम सर्टिफ़िकेट जो हैं वो पीडीएफ में भेज देते हैं। किसी भी साथी का कोई भी क्वेश्चन है तो इसी डिस्क्रिप्शन में एक हेल्पलाइन नंबर होता है, आप वहाँ से भी हमें व्हाट्सएप पे संपर्क कर सकते हैं, कोई इशू रहता है तो। मैं आपको बता दूँ, इन सभी सर्टिफ़िकेट का कोई भी फीस हम लोग चार्ज नहीं करते हैं। लेकिन यदि आप हमारी फाउंडेशन को कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट करना चाहते हैं, तो ये काफ़ी अच्छा रहेगा। आप कंट्रीब्यूट कई तरीके से कर सकते हैं। एक तो डिस्क्रिप्शन में लिंक के थ्रू कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं। साथ के साथ आप फाइनेंस में कंट्रीब्यूट नहीं करना चाहते तो जैसे सर की नॉलेज है वो दूसरे लोगों तक आप शेयर करके भी कंट्रीब्यूशन कर सकते हैं। और साथ के साथ आप चाहें तो आप यहाँ वीडियो के नीचे भी कुछ चीज़ें कमेंट करके या चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करके और दूसरे लोगों तक इस तरीके की नॉलेजेबल वेबिनार को भेज के भी आप इन सब चीज़ों का फ़ायदा उठा सकते हैं। आई होप आज का सेशन बहुत ही यादगार और जानदार रहा होगा आपके लिए और मिलते हैं जल्द ही किसी दूसरे सेशन में। मैं सर का एक बार पुनः दोबारा से ग्रेटिट्यूड पे करूंगा और मैं बहुत 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 दिल की गहराइयों से शुक्रगुजार हूँ। उन्होंने बहुत बेहतरीन तरीके से चीज़ों को रखा।
थैंक
थैंक
यू
यू सो
राज।
मच। थैंक यू सो मच एंड सभी ऑडियंस का भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जल्द ही मुलाकात करते हैं। थैंक यू सो मच।